But I want to welcome you all to our very first Best Practice Sharing series call today. As I said earlier, this is something brand new. We've heard from many of you that you are interested in kind of webinars and conference calls that would connect you, but also allow you to hear about resources and ideas and get support. So this is kind of something we came up with to address that. So please, at the end, I would love to hear feedback over the next couple of days, if you have any, to help us, continue to offer things like this or other things that you will find of value. The Best Practice Sharing series will be a series of calls that will highlight the excellent work that's going on in all of our regions around the country, and an opportunity to share ideas, build networks, and provide support. We've invited you all here together today to learn about the interesting initiatives in 2 of our JSHS regions, and to be able to talk to each other and begin to develop some ideas and resources which you may be able to bring back to your own region. So we welcome all of you to participate by speaking, either through chat function or unmuting yourself and coming in with a question or a comment. Sharing and asking questions today. I think we'll all get more value out of today's time if there is participation, and so we really hope that you'll feel comfortable to do that. And like I said, we'd love your feedback at the end to help us further develop this series. And also, let us know more topics of interest that you want in this best practice sharing series, other topics you want us to highlight, discuss, or if there's something you want to share, or there's something going on in another region that you think should be shared, let us know. We'll facilitate that. I know I've introduced Sara a minute ago, but Sara Munro, our Director of Communications. So Sara, if you want to say hi.
Hi, everyone. I'm helping Tina today with the conversation. So I'll be reading any questions that people type into the chat box.
Great. And also I want to welcome, I don't think she needs much introduction, but Doris Cousins, who you know is our National JSHS Director. Hello, Doris.
Hi. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. We really appreciate your taking the time to do so.
Can we hear Doris? Can everyone hear Doris?
I can't hear Doris.
No? Sara, could you hear Doris?
It helps to take it off mute.
There you are. Thanks, Doris.
I thought I did that. Sorry. Oh, well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. We really appreciate your taking the time to do so, and that you're all interested in supporting one another, in learning from one another, and working so hard towards the JSHS objectives. Thank you very much. And I think Tina is going to briefly talk about the relationship to AEOP objectives and one of the reasons we're doing this, but again, the primary reason we want to conduct these sessions is to connect all of you, and I hope you find it beneficial. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Doris. I understand that not everyone is able to speak or wants to, but please, when you're speaking up into the conversation, or when you might be chatting, please, we can see your name, but just let us know your name and region, because we will also want you to know who else is on the call, so you begin to meet each other and know who you might want to connect with kind of outside of this conversation, to have further discussions, deeper discussions, to learn more from each other and to share. So yesterday, I believe Doris sent a very compelling email to remind us all of the overall goals and the objectives of the JSHS program sponsored by the Tri-Services, so the Army, the Navy, and the Air Force, and the objectives of the Army Educational Outreach program, or AEOP. And two of the major program objectives this year are to outreach to underrepresented populations and to increase the number of high schools and participants in the regional and national symposia. So AEOP measures, so just to kind of give you this brief background, but AEOP measures the underrepresented participation using the criteria of ethnicity, race and ethnicity, women in the physical sciences, first generation college students, and those students who speak English as a as a second language. So English is not their first language. That's kind of what they're using to determine who falls into this category of underrepresented. And so we collect this data in CVent and have encouraged you to collect this in your registrations. And that's for a reason, because we have to report to AEOP so that we can look at the end of the year to see, are we meeting these objectives? And they're holding us up to that. So we want to make sure that we are meeting and exceeding their standards. AEOP also looks at the number of Title I high schools that participate in the regional and national programs. This used to be their primary tool for measurement, but now that we have access to individual demographic data, such as the criteria that I just spoke of, they're kind of turning more towards that as being what determines and how they can determine the percent of underrepresented participants who are engaged in JSHS, but they do also look at the number of Title I high schools that participate. So we're kind of focused on those areas. At the regional and the national level, we want to increase the participation of students in this category to meet that objective. But Doris and I, in a conversation we had just earlier this morning, do want to make it very clear that we are not changing the competition, and we are not changing what JSHS is all about. We simply want to be able to outreach and to connect and to encourage more students and participants from this particular population to come into the symposia and into the programs. So we encourage you, as you're thinking about your outreach, as you're thinking about, what you can do to meet these objectives and to engage with the underrepresented population and schools with large student enrollment in underrepresented populations, we encourage you to reach out to natural partners who are already mentoring students or who are already working and doing things with students from these populations. How can you get them to know more about your program and them involved so that they can help you in targeting students to participate? So, and we recognize that in order to increase outreach, you need resources. And in many cases, the main resource is funding, is money. And this is a big challenge. AEOP has responded by offering strategic outreach initiative grants. These grants are designed to provide funding to expose students to the AEOP opportunities and to support STEM participation by underrepresented students. So one of our guest panelists today, Susan from Ohio, was successful in receiving a strategic outreach initiative grant last year, which she's using in implementing her program this year that we're going to hear about. So hopefully she'll be able to provide a little insight into that. But in our last newsletter and in Doris's email yesterday, we invited all regions to apply for the next round of funding that is just about to begin. So RFP responses are due December 19th. And if you're interested in looking at this grant and applying for it and have specific questions, please give us a call so we can talk to you about it. We want you to apply. We want you to take advantage of this fund. So in your roles, you work hard to outreach. You're already doing work to publicize your program and to recruit talented students and teachers in STEM. But many of regional staff, through surveys and just through conversations that we've had over the year, continue to request more support in this specific area. So in your annual reports, you all submit in June or at the end of the year, you report on your outreach efforts. And we have noticed some pretty remarkable strategies and programs that are being implemented out there. And we wanted to highlight these practices and share them to allow others to take them and to use them as a jumping off point when thinking about what they can do in terms of their own research. Remember that we have 47 regions working for the same mission and for the same program, so we don't need to recreate the wheel 47 times. We hope that our efforts to build the JSHS regional network through events like this call will allow you to work smarter and to use each other to enhance and build your programs. So today, we have invited our Alabama and Ohio regions to speak about mentorship programs that have become part of their outreach efforts. Both regions have implemented programs using local partners and outside funding to launch these creative initiatives and to increase participation in their regional JSHS programs. So I want to introduce our two guests. We have Marc Jones from Alabama and Susan Stearns from Ohio. Marc is a 20-year teacher veteran at the Auburn Junior High School, and he is the founder of the Science Learning Community in Auburn. Marc has a PhD in science education, and his dissertation concerned the implementation of the state science and math initiative called the Alabama Math, Science, and Technology Initiative. 6 years ago, he began serving as a teacher fellow to the Alabama Academy of Science, and 2 years ago, he took over the role of director of the Alabama Junior Academy of Science, which qualifies and sends competitors to JSHS. And Susan Stearns currently serves as the Assistant Director of Programming and Development in the Northwest Ohio Center of Excellence in STEM Education at Bowling Green State University. She's heavily involved in working on and garnering funding for several of the center's programs, STEM in the Park, which is a hands-on STEM activity event for children and families, Women in STEM, a day-long program for middle school girls that engages them in the STEM fields and careers, and the Ohio JSHS, and the annual Symposium on STEM teaching. Susan works closely with regional and school districts to bring underrepresented students to our programs, and also works on the development of professional development programs for teachers in the rural areas. The center is one of the 7 hubs of the Ohio STEM Learning Network, and Susan represents the center as well as the Ohio After School Network and STEM Committee. And I also wanted to note that Jessica Belcher, who is one of the program directors for the Ohio JSHS at Bowling Green State University, was also planning to be with us to co-present with Susan, who she's partnered with in their initiative. But Jessica is sick and is unable to participate today, so Susan's going to step up and represent Ohio JSHS. So I want to get started, and I've asked Susan and Marc to take a few minutes to share their initiatives, and then we'll open up for discussions and questions. So again, this best practice series is meant to be interactive and generate conversation, so please feel free to speak up at any time. You can mute and unmute yourself as needed, and you can also use the chat function to type in any questions. And again, Sara will be monitoring the chat this afternoon. So Susan, I wanted to begin with you in Ohio and the mentoring program that you launched this year. So if you want to go ahead and take over for a few minutes.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I think the proximity of our Center for STEM Education at BGSU, we're very close to rural schools to our east and west and south, and then to our north to inner city schools. So we reached out to all different groups in regard to this grant to see who would be interested in applying for the OJSHS and being involved in it. So happily to say that in Toledo Public Schools, we found a great group of teachers from 3 different schools in that district, and we're going to have almost 60 students from underrepresented groups actually participating in OJSH this year. So we're really thrilled. It's going well so far. What we've done is provided the teachers and the students workshops explaining the components of the program and how to devise their research projects. The funding for this program is going to go for their research supplies, and we have facilitators that are going to teach them how to collect scientific data, analyze it, and then be able to present it at the program in March.
Great, thanks, Susan. So again, could you just share a little bit? I think it's great. So you took a targeted approach where you kind of outreach to let people know about what you're doing with JSHS and to get interest, and then you kind of waited for responses and then jumped on those who did respond and found them to be kind of your target groups and went with connected with them further to really bring them into the program. And so from what I'm gathering, you applied for the strategic outreach grant funding to initiate this program of training these particular teachers in these schools?
Correct. We already have the JSHS program running on our campus for a long time, almost 18 years. Is run out of BGSU.
Right.
So then we devised a plan where we could conduct outreach to schools that don't normally participate in the program.
Okay.
So even though we have schools from all over our region that do participate, we wanted to tap into those schools who don't.
Okay.
And find out why, and then help them with everything they need from the beginning to the end. So
great.
That's
so
what
a very
we did.
targeted.
We focused on, yes.
Okay.
Yes, we had targeted outreach plan was what the first step of our program.
Okay, great. And so so the funding you said that you applied for through the Strategic Outreach Initiative is to kind of fund their training and for the research supplies that they need to be able to help their students.
Correct.
With research projects. Do you know, Susan, are a lot of these teachers, do they have research classes in their high school, or are they kind of science, math, or STEM teachers who are doing this as an activity, a club, an extracurricular, or do they have a research component already in their curriculum?
It's a mixture of both.
Okay.
The one school that has a majority of the students has a research class in their curriculum, but it has never been actually used, or it's never been up front. They've had a lack of funding. So that's why I think this was particularly attractive to them, is that we are providing the funding so that they can get these research projects off the ground.
Fantastic.
So in turn, then, we see in the future that these same teachers then, once they are hooked into this program, that they will continue to be involved in it. It won't just be a one-time deal for this coming March when the program is held. We think that once they're heavily involved and see the outcomes and how it impacts the students,
right,
and their classrooms, that they will keep into the program.
Right, you've got them hooked. So is the plan, kind of in the ideal world, that then you would continue to target other schools? So once you get these schools kind of hooked and into JSHS as kind of repeat,
applicants.
Applicants, or kind of repeat schools. That you're gonna you can then move this program and go to a different school, and kind
absolutely. Toledo is the majority of kids are economically disadvantaged in the district itself. So there's 5 major public high schools, and we've tapped into only 2 of them. So we hope to get this funding again, and then we'll just keep going. We'll just continue our outreach.
Great. And who's helping you with kind of the actual training of the teachers, and is that coming from who is that coming from? Who's helping you kind of design the professional development and the training materials that you're delivering to this group of high school teachers?
Yes, it's Dr. Emilio Duran,
Okay.
and he's the longtime director of the Ohio JSHS.
Okay. And do you have any of the students from Bowling Green or any undergraduate students helping by going into classrooms or meeting with teachers? Most of this kind of virtual. How are you delivering the training?
We have been going to the schools to deliver the trainings.
Okay. Individually, or do you bring them all together? Do you have those teachers? Do you do this individually, like go to one school and deliver training and then go to the other or the others, or do you kind of bring the teachers involved into one place and deliver at one time?
Well, last week we had the majority of the teachers and majority of the students all in one place. It was fantastic.
Great.
And because of our proximity to Toledo, it's easier for us to travel there than to have all the teachers and students travel here. It's about 30 miles away.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. Very cool. Thank you. So I'm gonna turn it we'll return to you, Susan, when we open up the call, and I hope that there'll be more questions and comments and some conversation. But I also want to turn it over to Marc for you to talk about your innovative programs involving undergraduate students in Alabama. So, Marc, are you saved from the fire? Are you still with us? All right. Fantastic. Welcome. Thank you.
No burns.
Good.
In Alabama, we have, as per my introduction, I was brought into the Alabama Academy of Science, and I would think most states have an Academy of Science set up somehow for the state universities. But we also have our AMSTI initiative, and our AMSTI initiative is broken into 11 different regions in Alabama. And so we merged our junior academy of our junior humanities symposium to do 11 local competitions in Alabama, and then have our regional competition to select people to send. Our program that we have for underrepresented kids actually happened because of some bad experiences. Actually, we had one group of students come with a new teacher, and like you were saying before, one of the best strategies is to hook a teacher in and when they're new and give them support and expect that they'll come back year after year, and you just build a group like that. Well, we had one teacher from a county where we normally wouldn't have any participants. We hadn't historically had any participants from there. She was invited to our regionals, so this is after local competitions, and her kids were overwhelmed. They were really, really intimidated. They were not ready for the level of competition that we had at our regionals, and she, as a new teacher, didn't expect to see what was coming. And it was a really bad experience for her. So in response to that, we wanted to support her. One of our local regionals is supported by University of Alabama in Birmingham, and one of the professors there, one of the science professors there, she does cohorts of students that come through that are science majors, and they have a lot of the requirements besides just taking classes. And so we talked to her about getting her students to get credit for supporting this one particular teacher. And we came up with the idea of, at our regionals, we wanted to have a training session at our regionals. We wanted to be able to have it be our state meeting after we picked some of the best people from the different local competitions. And then we wanted to have them compete for the 5 spots that we were going to send to nationals. But we also wanted to be able to pick students who are interested to come in and say, well, let's talk about what you're going to do next year. And that's what this Dr. Tucker at the University of Alabama, Birmingham, that's what she wanted her students to run. was pretty much a training session of this is what's going on in these competitions around you today. You weren't selected for state competition, but let's figure out what you need to do to get ready for next year. So we also happened to get a $500 grant that was just a gift to the Alabama Academy of Science. And so we came up with the idea of giving these mentors incentive to virtually partner with students that I could select that would meet these underrepresented qualifications. We could give them like a $50 stipend if they could train somebody up and get them to come to our state meeting, even if it was to come to our state meeting to be trained about how to better compete the next year. So that's pretty much what our program is. This one teacher that gave us the idea and gave us the inspiration to start moving on the idea. She happened last year she had a research class, and that's where she got her students from. And she happened to have her schedule changed, and so last year we lost her. So we are trying to kind of reboot this year, and we're supporting her with one student. And our goal with $500 grant and $50 a student, our goal is to try to bring in 10 kids from 10 different teachers and build from there. We think our grant isn't renewable, but we think if we had some success stories that we could use the Alabama Academy of Science then to advertise that success, and that we could probably have the money renewed pretty easily.
Sure. So I just want to clarify, Marc, I think what a kind of innovative idea, and, kind of seeing someone had a bad experience, how are you going to make it better?
Right.
I think is, so, student and teacher centered, which is, what we strive for, because it really is about, developing students and giving them this positive experience, although it's competitive, we want it to be a positive learning and development experience for all.
That was the new thing for me, was our state meeting, our regional meeting was highly competitive.
Yeah.
So I had to shift gears a little bit.
Sure.
And bring in this other idea that it is not normally like me.
Right. No, I think it's great. But I do want to clarify. So the undergraduates from the University of Alabama, Birmingham,
Yes.
are they working with the teachers, with the students, or with both?
We have them communicating with the students primarily.
Okay.
And if the teachers want to get involved or need to get involved,
okay,
they do. And of course they would if the teacher is also mentoring.
Sure. Okay. So it's really, though, about the undergraduate students mentoring the high school students, through a project.
Right. And the idea is once you identify, the hardest thing is to identify a teacher who's willing to work with you and a student who wants to do it.
Right. So how have you identified those people?
We send out a lot of blind emails.
Okay.
I'm involved in a lot of other competitions, Science Olympiad and Science Bowl, and so it's really just my connections as best I can.
Great.
Our AmSty 11 locals at least gives me access to 11 different professors who are leaders and partnering with us, and they usually have some contacts with teachers in their local areas.
Great.
So
awesome.
it's all put together based on competitions that already occur in Alabama.
Okay.
The AmSty Locals, which is a Alabama Department of Education organization, and we're just trying to use all the resources that are already put in place. Great.
Very cool. So great. Thank you, Marc. Thank you, Susan. So I want to open it up now for let's discuss, let's network. I know there are many of you on the call from different regions. So do any of you have specific questions either for Marc or for Susan about what they just explained, or general comments? Again, you can unmute yourself and just introduce yourself with your name and region, or you can type in the chat box. And when you're doing that, we can see your name, but let us know what region, just so we can continue to build this network of program staff.
Hi, I'm Joy Erickson from Connecticut. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Joy. Thank you. Welcome.
And I just wanted to comment more about strategic partnerships. I'm working with the Urban Service Track, which is out of our area health education centers this year, because I wrote a biomedical engineering curriculum for high school students, and we've been working with our local inner city kids to come and do that on Saturdays. And now we have relationships with those students, so we're bringing those students to come to JSHS and try to look at what did they learn with this biomedical engineering that they can then turn into research projects. And also with our urban service track, these are medical students, dental students, engineering students, nursing students, because there's a health bent. So this is getting a hard science through their love of wanting to do biology. We always have that challenge. We have all these kids who want to do biology. How can we start getting them to think about computer programming? And we make robotic arms in here. We make prosthetic legs. We make heart valves. So we're using this angle to work with our urban neighbors. And we've also moved our location, which we can do in Connecticut because we're so small. But let's have our JSHS in one city area. And I'm also partnering with a program at Bridgeport and New Haven. We partner with Yale. I'm at the University of Connecticut, now at UConn Health. So these partnerships, we have an evolution program in New Haven that partners with many schools, and we also pay for a bus to get those kids in. And I will say that I also partner with the Lewis Stokes Alliance for Minority Participation. Those students are college students from underrepresented background in the STEM fields, and they act as staff when we're running our programs, doing tours, doing some hands-on science and career awareness. So those are some of the strategic partnerships that we do to build up our underrepresented groups and bring them in. And it's been working very well. And it takes several years to cultivate an area and really to work with specific teachers in those areas. We've got, I really related to what Susan, I think it was Susan and Marc both said about the kids came from the urban areas and they couldn't really compete as well. So the state of Connecticut actually has a, we call it the Urban Challenge. So we have a separate science fair that happens, and people can move from that into the regular science fair and then to JSHS. So we're creating a pipeline where we go to their area, their sites, so that they can start competing at their level, and then that brings up the stakes so that they're now being able to compete at the state level. So I just wanted to throw that in and contribute.
Thanks, Joy. I really appreciate, again, this is Tina, but thank you for sharing what's going on in Connecticut. I know you've been doing things for a long time there, and I really appreciate what you say about it does take time, and we understand that. Certainly, I know Doris and Sara and I understand that, we don't expect numbers of underrepresented participants to go through the roof, in your very first year of trying something. But what we appreciate is that you are thinking strategically. You're reaching out to partners and knowing that, it will build into something, because you've cultivated relationships. But, certainly joy as you're thinking, because you have some strategic partners, one of these strategic outreach initiative grants, could be potentially, valuable to you. I don't know what you're doing and what funding it requires in terms of, the programs that you're running, but certainly I think you have an argument for putting together an application if that's something you're interested in doing. And we really encourage, all of our JSHS regions to think about how they could use these strategic outreach initiatives. They will be offered a few times every year. So I know that we are in our second round of the grants and application right now. But if you're not ready right now, to apply for a grant, certainly, continue to build relationships with partners and develop a proposal so that the next round of grants, which will probably come, later in the spring or summer, Doris, you may have a better sense of exactly when the timing is, but there will be a third round coming up in 2017 that you'll be prepared to do that. So thank you. More comments, questions? Anybody want to share something that you have been doing at the regional level, or have a question for one of our presenters or anyone else about outreach?
And remember, if you don't have a microphone or can't speak right now, you can put your answer into the chat box.
Hi, this is Phil from the Greater Philadelphia region. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yeah, welcome, Philip. How are you?
I'm doing well. So I just wanted to make a comment. I'm really encouraged by how folks are reaching out to universities and colleges. This is year 3 for Greater Philadelphia, and it's just really been an interesting ride so far. I worked with several folks last year and doing this for my first year, and then going into this year, I have a little bit more experience. I have a little bit more ideas about how we can reach out to folks. But I just want to share this. Two of the biggest partners we have is Temple University. They are a fantastic champion of ours. But the second is the School District of Philadelphia, where we have connections with their science curriculum specialists that specifically focus on 9th through 12th grade students. So even with outreach for our flyers or anything collateral that we want to do for reaching out to students, we can give it to them. And he has, connections with all of the science teachers in the city of Philadelphia. So he can send that information out. And then recently what we've been doing is physically going out to high schools, which is why I'm very encouraged by what Susan was saying about physically going out to schools to do presentations or workshops. We've been doing that this year for the past, month or so. Just talking with students, students asking a lot of questions. And we found that, a lot of students are a part of other science fairs, or their school, if they're a senior or a junior, they're already making them do some type of science report. So a lot of the science teachers are really starting to get on board. A lot of the math teachers are really starting to get on board with supporting students with what they're already doing as assignments as seniors and juniors, with connecting that with JSHS. So I just wanted to throw that out there, my little 2 cents.
Great. Thanks, Philip. And I know you've been going out, you and Tess and everyone in Philadelphia has been going out to connect. And I think that that's great. And I think that, something that we know is, there is interest out there. There are students and teachers doing great things in STEM. But I think sometimes the missing piece, and I think that this is what Ohio and what Alabama specifically, referring to today's presentations, are doing, or have, where they kind of thought a little beyond. And I think other regions are certainly doing the same thing with how you're going out, but is, capturing the interest, but preparing teachers and students for for what a STEM competition and what a JSHS competition requires and what it involves. Because I think the interest is there. I think the passion is there. Students want to present, but everyone wants to have that positive experience that Marc referred to, and and they're nervous. If they haven't done it before, is what they're doing up to par? So I think one thing that we've talked a lot about in our national office in our own recruitment and outreach efforts, to help regions, is what can we do to help teachers and mentors be better prepared to guide students to be ready for a JSHS project, and what materials and resources and things are out there. So I think that's something to keep in mind, but also I want to give kudos to all of you, because it sounds like you've thought about that already and are doing those things. I do have a quick question for both Susan and Marc, our presenters, but just wondering, I know that both of you are early on in initiating these programs. You've just recently got the funding and are, starting the motions to get this on track, but just wondering, how you plan to track the progress and outcomes of these programs, if you have any assessment or evaluation tools in place, and how you plan on kind of measuring your success.
I can go first.
Thanks, Marc.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, our goal isn't quite as big as Susan's, so our goal is, my goal is to get 10 teachers with their students, and I know that the anchor that will keep everything going is to keep those teachers involved. So just the basic, getting 10 teachers who are going to mentor 10 students and connecting them to our mentors, and then keeping those 10 teachers is the first self-assessment.
Okay. Sure.
I would do. And then the second thing would be, can I get those teachers to come to, those teachers would be people I'd be interested in getting a lot of feedback from at our state meeting. And so that's what I'm interested in doing this year, is having a focus group with whoever can make it to our state meeting, and we'll use some of our budget, our statewide budget to get them there.
Okay.
And I just want to see how many we can actually get out of the state. We have probably about 40 to 50 teachers who are participating on and off, or every year, or on and off, and we get about 10 or 15 teachers to actually come to our state meeting.
Okay.
So if I can get 3 or 4 of these 10 teachers to come to our state meeting, that would be my first self-assessment. And then I'd be doing the focus group to try to figure out, what else do we need to do.
Great, thank you. I think that's a good start. And Susan?
Yes, we plan to conduct a pre- and post-evaluative survey of the students and the teachers. We will particularly ask them questions involving their knowledge of how to collect scientific data, research it, and then report on it. And so we're going to administer that here probably before Christmas break. If not, it'll be the 1st of January. That'll be the pre-survey, and then we'll do the post-survey after the program in March.
Great, I like that. And at some point, we, if you wouldn't mind just sharing, I'm just interested in, in kind of the questions on the survey, and how you're developing both the pre and the post. I like the idea of kind of doing a pre and post assessment to see where everyone is baseline, and how they're feeling at the end of the experience. So that's great.
Sure. And we noticed when we were with the students last week how enthusiastic they were about getting this project. So
good.
It'll be interesting to see their responses and read their responses.
Right. Yeah. So great. Are there any other questions or comments from others on the call this afternoon?
We don't have questions in the chat yet.
Okay. Well,
this is Doris. I just wanted to jump in a minute, and Marc is, and anyone else who wants to speak on this, is there a resource that could help you with outreach to the schools? Everything is local, and we have basic JSHS brochures, but what you're doing is showing teachers how to effectively compete. And what additional resources would be helpful to you in that regard?
I think the biggest hurdle is getting anybody to read my email.
I can relate.
Yeah. And I mean, that's a boundary that I just don't know how to get around, except for me to drive all over the state, and that's just unrealistic. And you know, that has to do with the fact that I'm a classroom teacher, and so I can't take 10 professional days over the course of the year to go visit different schools or something. Yeah, our hardest thing is making contact with. There are lots of teachers out there who are doing things, and it's just difficult to make contact with them. So the fact that we have 11 locals, and I have those contacts, gives me that in. But there's still that's the main boundary, and I'm not sure there's much of a resource that could help with that, except the platform that y'all are using for today is revolutionary to me. Me doing conference calls with my cell phone has been not a good experience in the past. So what is this platform that we're using?
So we can maybe, Sara, maybe you and Marc could connect offline.
I would love to borrow it.
Sure.
To talk about Zoom. You know, we've chosen Zoom is the name of the platform, but there's something called GoToMeeting, and there's some other platforms out there. So you know, but Sara, this is the guru when it comes to this. But you know, if we can connect, you know, you, Marc, or other regional staff, just to tools like this to help you, because we know that, you know, your states are big, so it is hard to actually go out to see people. But you know, if you can create these virtual conferences, virtual meetings, trainings, and we can help you do that, you know, we would love to do that. So maybe Sara and Marc could.
Yeah, I'd be very interested.
Contact.
Sure. It is called Zoom, and there are free accounts too. So it is something that's really affordable for people and a little easier to use than GoToMeeting.
Yeah. Great. Well, I do want to be mindful of the time. We you know that you are coming out of classes, meetings, and have other things to do. But I want to thank Susan and Marc, and also Jessica, who isn't with us. I hope she's feeling better, but she definitely helped prepare and was ready to co-present with Susan. But we certainly want to thank them, especially this as our first presenters in the best practice sharing series. But I also really want to let you all know, everyone who was on the call, how much we value your time and appreciate that you did want to participate, and you did participate today, and you know, spoke up and you know, joined the call. We want to do more of these, so certainly let me know what other topics you would like. If you have any comments or feedback on how today ran, I would appreciate that too. We want to continue this series throughout the year, but we want to make sure that it's worth your time and is going to give you some takeaways that you can, you know, act on, and that you feel like, wow, you know, I'm glad I did that. You know, that's what we want to do by providing you with this resource. So, so thank you. Best of luck as you continue your outreach and start to collect your registrations. And there's much more communication that's going to be coming from our office as we get closer to your regional events. So, you know, but let us know what we need. And if I know we'll be sending out at least one more newsletter before the holidays, but if not, I certainly want to just share my warm wishes for you and all of your families and friends and people that you work with, the best this holiday season. So.